The new-ish Payday 2 update has looked pretty good, to be honest. It added 2 new weapons out of the blue for the PUBG crossover, which I'm still a little unsure about, but it did give a pretty nice buff to the ballerina. At its base, it was very similar to the cavity, and still is. I played around with it a bit when it dropped in the espionage pack, and it was decently fun. Wasn't super exciting, which is definitely a good thing. The McShay weapon packs were filled with overpowered power creep DLC guns. It was a little niche, if not the most viable, but the buffs have helped it become a lot more competitive, but it's still seriously niche. I genuinely don't think I've seen another soul use this thing, well, besides from me, but it's a lot up to personal preference now, and it's become a genuinely competitive secondary SMG. So, I'm gonna give a couple builds just to show off the ballerina a little bit, and then talk about some of the changes given to the gun. So, Armorer. I don't think I need to justify it, right? Despite being so simple, it's one of my favorite armor decks in the entire game. Free 2-shot ICTV and 2 seconds of God mode are both incredibly powerful and lend themselves well to objective play when I decide to turn my brain on. The ballerina I've kitted out to work with Berserker and Overkill Aced. If you get your Zerg to 90%, the ballerina will hit a one-shot headshot breakpoint on heavy swats. I also had some extra points and grabbed high-value target, which will just make the ballerina kill dozers faster. If I was gonna take Overkill Aced, I needed a shotgun to proc it. Originally I went with a Moscone here, but decided to go with something a little more niche and a little more loud, and so I decided on a Stakeout. To like all 5 people who use this gun, and to carrot Payday 2, yeah, I see where y'all were coming from. It's a very fun shotgun that was, unfortunately, power crept even harder by the VD-12s, as if the Isma didn't already power creep the fuck out of it already. I loaded it with Dragon's Breath rounds for shields, and you'll also use it for crowds. Now, originally the ballerina would have only been a special killing gun, but a few things have made it more viable to keep out over the Stakeout. The pointy barrel attachment went from only 2 damage extra to a whopping 12, so now we can get that Zerg breakpoint. Ammo pickup was also increased from a range of 0.4 to 2 to a range of 3 to 5. The ballerina no longer struggles nearly as much with ammo and can still be a super good dozer killer. Pull out the Stakeout when you need to take care and or stun crowds, proc overkill, and then go on a big ol' tear with your SMG. Pretty similar concept, but with a lighter armor and different deck. I'm kind of weird in that I like to use muscle in low detection risk builds, when it clearly pairs better with an ICTV, so this build is a little bit more niche. As niche as a non-triple SMG or non-primary sniper build can get. But a 70 armor setup isn't half bad on muscle. Muscle's already good survivability combined with hostage taker provides a rather potent combo. You'll often look down and never have realized you're at full health again. Long story short, because you have so much health, you can heal a heavy SWAT shot in about 30 seconds. The Moscone is mainly for shields and proccing overkill. Overkill isn't required, but the swap speed and 70% damage increase are just a nice add-on to the crits you're already getting. It makes the TTK a little more consistent when you don't proc the crits. Speaking of crits, how is the ballerina with crits? Pretty fun. This build has been minorly buffed by the concealment increase going from 23 to 25, meaning you can put more onto the gun and get the same amount of crits. It turns out that adding a headshot multiplier again onto a gun that already does a lot of damage makes rather silly things happen. However, I will say this build is a lot more fragile. While you are playing Muscle, which is a pretty tanky deck, without a convert, you're pretty vulnerable, and as you can see by the gameplay, I kinda suck at grabbing converts. These aren't the craziest builds, and they weren't built by a rather good player, they were built by me, but if you like the ballerina at all, or want to give these builds a try, go ahead and use them, and build upon them on your own. I highly recommend the gun, it's honestly a lot of fun.